Team Chewy now. Unfortunately, I didn't get the Chewy land, so I'm waiting for an email back. But I'm very, very excited to kick next week.
Nice.
Yeah. Dog stuff and cat stuff and just, all sorts of animal-based stuff. I don't know. Who are your affiliates over there with Dynasty Rewind?
We have Dynasty Owner and we have Underdog Best Ball.
Yeah. How's Underdog going with you guys?
It's free. Dude, I'm just glad we got it because I love the app. Like,
I did another draft today. I have like 30 or 40 teams now.
It's so much fun, man. And I'm not just saying that because they sponsor us, but the app is really sleek. It works well, which is fantastic. The notifications are good, but it doesn't flood you. So I love it. I love it. And the people that you work with there are really good to work with too. It's not like other sponsorships where it's like really hard. It's hard to get responses. They're super reactive to everything that you say. So it's awesome.
I actually have a meeting tomorrow with somebody I'll mention to you after the show because you might have worked with them before, but I have a meeting tomorrow at 2:00 with another program. We'll see what happens.
Nice.
But anyways, how's y'all's day going so far, Taylor? Have you been busy today? I saw you, lighting up our group chat, trying to get us to guess who the.
Oh yeah, I was on trivia mode today while I was researching stuff for an article. So, yeah, I was just out on StatHead, manipulating numbers and having fun with that.
Mike, let's see, or Taylor, ask the question to Mike, and let's see if he can guess at least like a couple of them. Let's see if he can guess 3.
Now I got to remember the question. It was from 2017 to 2020. Arizona and Detroit combined had 10 different running backs that had games with over 20 carries. So just think of a running back that has 20 carries in a game that played for one of those two teams. How many can you name of the 10?
Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, he did it for both teams, actually.
He did it for both.
Right.
He's one. So it's not just that played for both.
No, it's just for either one of those teams. There's 2 teams I was looking at.
2017, you said? 2020?
Yep.
So we have Adrian Peterson. I'd say Kerryon Johnson would probably be on that list.
Yes.
Right?
David Johnson.
Yes, David Johnson.
Chase
Kenyon Drake.
Chase Edmonds and Kenyon Drake were on there.
We got 5. Okay. Let's see who else. There's going to be like some random.
I got one, but I messed up his name. I misspelled his name.
Yeah, actually, Chase, you got I think 3 of them that I wasn't expecting. 3 that I thought would stop everyone. You got those 3.
I'll give you one for the Lions. So Zach Zenner.
Oh, wow.
He won a Gil.
Wouldn't have guessed
because he won me. And then we had maybe 2 because I don't think you guys will get this other one. But Williams, I said one, but all right, let's go ahead. You guys ready? Let's go.
Is Chase a little choppy?
This is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Chase Vernon.
What's going on, guys? Welcome into yet another episode of Fantasy Intervention, coming at you quick, fast, and in a hurry. I am joined by my co-host, Phil, at Dynasty Society. What's going on, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I just saw Xavier Jones go for 70% of their annual fab when waivers ran 5 minutes ago. So I don't know what to make of that. Just breaking news in one of my leagues. Wild stuff happening.
Is this the league that we actually chopped up and went through like the draft with them?
It is. Someone just dropped 70% of their annual fab budget on him.
You need to tell them to come into this chat so that we can chastise them and make fun of them as much as possible. Just tell them the whole group chat that we're going to focus on that as one of our topics about halfway through the show, and let's see how many people we can get in here.
All right, I'll shoot that off.
Okay, yeah, let's go. And then, of course, we got _ Taylor Cornell. Taylor in the house. We're actually going to be discussing one of his articles that he wrote for us on Antonio Brown. That's going to be a main topic today, so I'm very excited for that. What's up? We got Cooter in the house as well. What's going on, Taylor? How's your day going so far?
I just saw in one of my leagues Cam Akers get traded for Mostert, a first and a second, which I thought was still a pretty good return for Cam Akers.
I think that's actually a really good return, to be honest.
In a 10-team league. Yeah, 10-team league. So, I mean.
Yeah, you get a back-end starter ready to rock and roll. Yeah. All right. And then, of course, we are joined by our extra special guest. We've got Michael Bowers in the house from Dynasty Rewind at Rewind CEO. What's going on, Michael? How you doing tonight, man?
Hey, guys. How you doing? Happy to be back. Well, I don't know if I was officially on the show once before. I don't remember. It was
once.
Random. I don't know, but it was a good time. Happy to be here with you guys. I'm Michael Bauer, host of the Dynasty Rewind. Come check us out. All Dynasty all the time. I like the return on that trade as well, especially when you consider you're going to get something from Mostert this season. Even if it's a couple games and he explodes and you move him because your team is not doing what you want it to, it's something. Don't be afraid to make moves, people. That's what I like to see.
I love making moves. In fact, I'm actually trying to make a move right now in one of my Dynasty leagues. I'm trying my first ever 4-team trade. I completed like my 10th 3-team trade over the past couple of years, like 2 weeks ago. I'm going for a 4-team trade. I finally found one I liked. We have 3 accepting. We're waiting on the 4th guy. Like, this could be a lock, and I'm ready for it, man.
Nice.
Have you guys ever completed like 3-team or 4-team trades?
Just a 3-teamer in person. But a 4-teamer, haven't ventured that far yet.
It's a lot. I'm excited for like a 5-teamer once I complete this 4-teamer. I'm going to go for 5. I'm going to make sure that the league actually makes one trade where it's like a 12-team trade, like all the way across the board. I'm excited for that.
Who are you receiving? Who's the gem in the trade?
All right, so I need a secondary quarterback. I believe my quarterback's like Jameis Winston, like Josh Allen, and then after that's Kellen Mond. So I needed a third quarterback just in case Jameis Winston doesn't make moves. I'm in a win now type scenario, so I'm going for Jalen Hurts. I'm trading away Kadarius Toney and a 2022 round pick. Meanwhile, I ended up the other moving pieces are like Kareem Hunt, Will Fuller, a couple like ancillary like draft pieces, moving around throughout the whole trade. So it's interesting. I'm sitting there. I feel like I'm getting a good return for giving away Kadarius Toney and a 2022 first. I'm not a big Hurts fan, however, that player has 5 quarterbacks and his starting running backs like Marlon Mack and like another just backup running back essentially. So the trade makes sense. It makes a little bit of sense. But anyways, let's go ahead and kick this episode off real quick. I want to dive into Taylor's piece, right, on Antonio Brown, because I think Antonio Brown's getting real hot right now. I mean, we saw him, especially in best ball. We talked about how we have these best ball teams that we've been going through with Underdog. In fact, we sit there and we're looking at Michael Bauer actually has an affiliate program with them. Do you want to give them the promo code shout out real quick?
Yeah, sure. So use the promo code Rewind. You get $25. That's it. You just put the code in. It's not like other places where you have to put in 25. You get match 25. You just get 25. Thanks, Dave. Good to see you, man. Underdog is really fun too. I love it. I just started one. I got to share the link out, but I just started one. Actually, while I was getting ready for that, getting out of the shower, I'm starting Underdog best ball. So I'll share the link then if anybody wants to join with me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm stoked for you, man. That's a great partnership, of course, and I'm ready for it. But as we sit there, we saw like Antonio Brown going like the 12th round. Lately, I saw him going like the 9th round, and then I was in a draft the other day, and it was like the 7th round or something like that. It's like ADP. It's up there, man, and it's continuing to rise. And I think that is because of Taylor's article. If it wasn't for Taylor's article, I think Antonio Brown would probably be sitting in like the 15th round by now, just falling off a cliff.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's up there with like starting, wide receivers who we're going to talk about in a minute. But is it something as to where like you're believing more in his upside, Taylor? Like you're taking a shot on his upside. You believe that he's a safe option because he has that connection over the last few weeks of the season. He showed that he had it with Brady. Or, is it something as to where like he's a little bit risky, but he's still safe in most weeks, and you feel safe based on the matchup that you're going to play him in?
Yeah, I kind of think it's all the above, but mainly I think you can count on him to be fairly solid, and he's got the huge upside. I actually, after I wrote that article, I was working on another piece with Mike Evans, not on purpose, but I was just nailing these Tampa Bay wide receiver articles. But I put out the Twitter poll to say, which Buccaneers receiver do you think is riskier for fantasy in 2021? And 46% of the 1,100 votes said Antonio Brown, which I thought was interesting. And, risky can be viewed a number of different ways. So I guess if you're thinking maybe he's going to have more down weeks, but I look at the cost associated as well. And he's the cheaper of the three. He has ups, like legitimate top 5 wide receiver upside. If anything were to happen to Godwin or Evans, I think he's pretty safe, and you can get that upside. When you look at where he, I say was being drafted at the time I wrote it, who knows where he'll be in August. This could be one of those articles that doesn't age well. But where he was being drafted, the guys around him, I mean, is like a Marquise Brown, Michael Pittman, Jalen Waddle, Curtis Samuel. Like, I would prefer Antonio Brown over all of those guys in 2021.
Yeah, I mean, like you brought up at the time that you wrote the article, now he's going around with some other guys who I can't wait to discuss here in a second. But, I mean, Michael, like, do you see Antonio Brown getting too high? Do you think his value is getting, properly equated? Like, where are you feeling with Antonio Brown, Michael?
When you're talking about risk, when we talk about risk, what are we equating with that? Are we equating with what we're giving up to obtain him? I think that's what people are kind of saying is the risk they don't want to give up. But if you look, so I don't know what ADP guys are using. I just hopped on the DLF, their website, and he is number wide receiver 63 right now. So he's 170th overall in a super flex format. Just looking at what's going around him, do you want Antonio Brown or Amon-Ra St. Brown? Do you want Antonio
I'll
Brown?
take A. Brown.
Okay. Do you want him or Brian Edwards? Him or Amari Rogers? Yeah. Paris Campbell, Diami Brown? You know what I mean? So it goes on and on here. I really think that he could be safe. Not everyone's a wide receiver 1. Not everyone's a wide receiver 2. If Mike Evans goes down, he gets injured. We know that. Chris Godwin, he got hurt last year. We're talking Antonio Brown got second half of the season, came off the suspension. He finished with 62 targets, 45 catches, 483 yards, and 4 touchdowns. In half the season, learning a new offense, you could really do worse than Antonio Brown.
Well, I mean, is this a situation where Antonio Brown has like 3 or 4 years left? Or do you think we're talking about like a 2-year cap? I'm going to stick with you since you're the dynasty expert over here.
Well, I think if it is a 2-year cap, I'm fine with that too. I'm not giving up multiple first-round picks for Antonio Brown anymore. I'm fine with it. And I feel like a lot of times in Dynasty, people overlook the fact that, there's going to be guys, I call it dying on your roster. There's going to be times that guys just die on your roster. They get cut, they get hurt, whatever. Nobody wants them, and you release them. And
AJ Green.
Exactly.
Todd Gurley.
Yep. Le'Veon Bell.
This offseason's been really weird, man, with guys like, Le'Veon Bell or Gurley's got to get a job now, right? With Cam Akers getting hurt. Going to sign one of those guys, maybe. I would think Lev Bell would be the better of the two. But if it's a 2-year window for Antonio Brown, I'm completely fine with plugging him in there as my wide receiver 3 on a weekly basis. I'd rather flex him than a guy like Alexander Madison or Dawson Knox. Ian Thomas, remember when he was a thing? So it's sometimes not about a position. When you're looking at your flex spot, everyone's like, it should be a running back or a wide. Just look for best player available. And it could be Antonio Brown. This is
Real
good
quick,
article, Taylor. Just want to say that. I enjoyed reading it.
Yeah, you guys can actually go find that article on fantasyintervention.com. Go check out the AB article. I believe it's probably the second one still up on the main page.
I'm going to tweet it out right now.
Awesome, man. Hey, Michael, real quick, before you tweet it out, you're on DLF. Can you tell me where like Chris Godwin, Mike Evans are going and the players that are going around him?
I sure can. I'm going to probably have to scroll.
Because I'm going to actually transfer it over to Phil, and I want to see which, let's play like the and or if type situation where, you could have Paris Campbell and blank, or you can have, Chris Godwin and Paris Campbell, or I'm sorry, Antonio Brown and blank. Excuse me.
You want me to? I got Chris Godwin right here, and he's wide receiver 11, so he's the 50th player on the board.
Wow.
Okay. So wide receiver 9 is DeAndre Hopkins, 10 is Jamar Chase. So we'll go after him. Would you rather have Chris Godwin or Keenan Allen at wide receiver 12?
So you get Keenan Allen and Antonio Brown. Or you get Chris Godwin and like Paris Campbell or Bryan Edwards, whichever guy you pick. We'll start out with Phil.
Right. I think I went with the package just to diversify a little bit. Evans and Godwin staying healthy is not out of the realm of possibilities. And when you're looking at where AB's going in redraft leagues this year, he's the 46th receiver off the board. And you look at who's around him, and I'd rather have AB over Shenault, Pittman, Marvin Jones, T.Y., Devontae Parker, and then, Taylor mentioned Waddle earlier. He's a steal at the current redraft ADP. I'd rather bump him up 20 spots to be closer to the Cooks, Curtis Samuel, Jerry Jeudy's of the world. But for this year and potentially the 2-year outlook that Michael just said, I'm going to buy. I'm not paying 2 firsts. I'd pay a random 22 first probably if that team is going to be in the latter half of the draft. But yeah, it's great value for this year and the next upcoming too. Taylor, great article, by the way.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I agree with all those things as well. And I think in Mr. CEO down there, you touched on it. So I'm echoing what you already said. But the fact that Antonio Brown literally hadn't played a game since September of 2019 and then steps in and for the rest of the season ties for the team lead in targets. Granted, he had a big game in week 17 where they're trying to get him some roster bonus stuff or whatever it was, incentive bonuses, but still he had a really solid season in half of a year. I just think it's interesting now. Granted, with Dynasty, I know age is much more important, but when you think about like the Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd trio, I'm not really sure Evans, Godwin, Brown should be viewed much different production wise. Now, granted, you've got, if you're comparing, let's say Boyd and AB is the 2 most comparable in the trios, you've got a big age difference. Don't get me wrong. But I think from a production standpoint, I wouldn't be shocked if those Buccaneers receivers produce similar to what everybody who's really excited about the Bengals offense as they rightfully should be.
So sitting there and looking at it, I mean, the reason why he had to hit those week 17 bonuses and whatnot is because he was so far behind on the rent that he had to pay to Tom Brady to live inside that massive house that he had to hit those bonuses in order to pay the rent off. So come on, like that's where the incentive was lined for Tom Brady to make sure he got the ball. But sitting there and looking at it, I have Chris Godwin in almost every league that I can get him in. I think the last year he's playing hurt. He's playing with broken fingers, shoulder issues, like leg issues. I have Chris Godwin every year or everywhere, and I think that he's actually going to break out to an extent this upcoming year. I think we're actually going to see like another top 5 performance from him. How are you guys feeling about the other receivers on this roster currently, and which receivers do you have the most shares of in your leagues? We'll start out with Phil this time.
I've officially gotten rid of all my Mike Evans shares. His game last year being so reliant on touchdowns really started to worry me, and just the lack of yards after the catch. So this offseason, I just tried to, like I said, diversify a little bit. So I've changed all those shares to mostly Godwin shares. And Chase, I totally agree. I think we could see a better 2019 version this year. That top 5 upside for sure.
Real quick, I mean, just to add to that, like we're sitting there and we talked about how if Tom Brady, right, could build a slot receiver in a lab, it would have been Chris Godwin. Like Chris Godwin is the ideal slot receiver. I mean, he has all the speed. He has literally every single measurable that you want. He's an athletic freak, and yet he had a very injury-riddled year last season, which is not something we're used to from Chris Godwin. And all of a sudden, people are treating him like he's a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. Why did all of a sudden it change? But I mean, back to you. Do you have anything to add to that?
People just cooled off on Godwin halfway through the year. They weren't sure what Brady's connection with him was going to be. People started hyping the I hate to say it, Tyler Johnson, Scotty Millers of the world, because everyone, I hate to say those names, even though Scotty Miller did catch a great long touchdown in that Green Bay game. But even if you look back at the Super Bowl, Mike Evans only got 1 target, 31 yards. It was a catch. AB had 6 targets and 5 catches that game and was the second leader in targets behind Gronk. That's for recency bias. Super Bowl, they featured AB. So that momentum is going to carry into this year.
Michael, do you have anything to add?
Just to answer your question, I have Godwin rostered the most out of this wide receiver core, but I could see a possibility, especially with the extra game now. This team could have 3 wide receivers over 1,000 yards. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
Oof. Has that happened before?
Yeah, I think Kurt Warner
the
did
Colts.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, Kurt Warner did it with the Cardinals too, I think in 2008. I don't know why I know that off the top of my head. We look like maybe Cameron Brate doesn't get as many touches. Maybe Tyler Johnson, Scotty Miller's not playing because of injuries to the wide receiver core. If their big 3 stays healthy, I could see it definitely happening, especially with a backfield like that. We don't know what Leonard Fournette and Rojo are going to really do. Maybe they just suck and Bruce Arians just throws the ball all the time. So it's possible.
True.
Yeah, and I mentioned that like in the article as well, as far as I looked at neutral game script pass rate. So I think for the parameters that I used, I think it was like if the game was then a touchdown or whatever. And Tampa Bay had the 4th highest neutral game script pass rate during AB's tenure there, weeks 9 through 17. So they were going to be passing the ball a lot, whether they're winning or losing. We don't expect them to lose a ton, I guess, next year. They have a good defense coming off the Super Bowl, obviously. But I think even if they are a really good team, that Tom Brady's going to continue slinging the ball, and there's going to be plenty of opportunities. And when you look at the target share, I enjoy. Okay, let me say I enjoy extrapolating, but I definitely don't enjoy basing all my analysis on extrapolation. However, in this instance, we do have half of a season of data, so it helps a little bit. But like if you're looking at Antonio Brown's role and assuming he keeps the same type of role for an entire season, he's going to be in line for 120 plus targets. And it's hard to imagine Antonio Brown with 120 plus targets not having 1,000 yards.
You know how I know that like Phil wasn't lying about like him really enjoying your article is because he's been a bobblehead since we started this topic conversation. Every time you talk, he's like,
I'm just like, I'm eating it all up. I'm soaking this AB hype up because if the fact that I can plug and play him as a wide receiver 3, I can sleep so well at night knowing that. That's all I care about.
Yeah,
I'll take that. So, sitting there and doing best ball, right? I've been doing nonstop basketball leagues, and I saw that there were, 2 other guys that are going around his range, and it was like, I see like the Gallup comparison, right? I see the Gallup like hype, being there as the 3rd wide receiver on the team. We see Antonio Brown as the 3rd wide receiver on the team, most likely. And then we have DJ Chark, who's the wide receiver 1, most likely, for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And yet he's going around the same range as these other 2 wide receiver 3s on their own team. So out of, let's just say Antonio Brown, let's just say out of, let's go with Antonio Brown or Gallup for best ball. Which one are you guys taking out of these 2?
Well, I'm going Brown easily, but maybe I'm biased because I read an article. Maybe I should write a Gallup article and then re-answer the question.
I had Gallup all year last year, and Dak Prescott nor Andy Dalton knew how to look left, very similar to like Zoolander, how he couldn't turn left. He just didn't even look left. So it was very painful to watch those games and watch him be wide open and him not throwing the ball yet when he had contested catches and he would come down with them all. It's like, why don't you give him more chances downfield? It drove me insane. Drove me absolutely insane. Hopefully that's different this year. But Michael, where are you going with Gallup or Antonio Brown in best ball?
Give me that's a really tough one, but I think I'm probably going to go Antonio Brown. I think his ADP is going to be a little lower. I think maybe just a little bit lower than Gallup's. But Gallup's got – could we say that Gallup's got a lot more, competition for targets there? I mean, with the other wide
he does.
Dalton Schultz.
I don't know. I kind of think like when you add in Zeke as well. Like I know Tampa Bay added Gio Bernard, and maybe he becomes the new James White, maybe. But I don't really think that the running backs in Tampa Bay are going to command targets like Zeke could. Plus, you mentioned Jordan and Schultz. I think they would be a bigger. They're going to be a bigger factor than O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate.
Yeah. And Rob Gronkowski? Absolutely not. Plus, O.J. Howard, don't forget his one game that he played before getting hurt. He was sniper targeted.
Right.
Yeah, and then you have Gronkowski. So honestly, like I don't feel like there's gonna be that much of a difference. And I think that I think that they added Gio Bernard for a reason. Don't forget, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers led their backfield led all backfields in drops last year. And Tom Brady was visually frustrated. Like, every time there's a drop, he like looked at him. He's like, "What are you doing? Like, I just threw you a 5-yard pass and you dropped it." And it wasn't just Rojo. It wasn't just Fournette. It wasn't just Vaughn. It was all three of them. So with him being visually upset, they went out with like a mission, and they got the one player to add on their offense who adds a different aspect than any other player on their offense, and that's the player who can catch passes out of the backfield. So honestly, like I don't know that there's much more competition for targets. And keep in mind that Tampa Bay, I believe, runs a slower offense than what the Cowboys run. Keep in mind, I mean, the Cowboys did have to keep up in games because they let record passing yardage against them this past year. So yes, I believe there's actually just as much competition for targets in both parties.
Would you say Dallas could also be another team that also gets 3 1,000-yard receivers? Like if I'm thinking of all the teams in the NFL, they're up there in my top 3 alongside Tampa Bay.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll talk about another team soon. So, but Michael, like you got to make a definitive answer for me. Who you taking, AB or Gallup in best ball?
Just give me AB then. Again, I'll go with the better quarterback.
All right, who you got, Phil?
I'm going to go with AB and the better quarterback, and I think less competition for targets.
All right, so let's go ahead and take for Dynasty. We have 2 slot receivers. We have Godwin and we have Lamb. Which one are we taking there? We'll start out with Taylor again.
For Dynasty?
Dynasty, Godwin or Lamb?
I have Lamb higher, yeah.
Okay. See, this is what I'm talking about. Last year, Godwin, there's no way Godwin would have been behind Lamb. No way.
I'm taking
I like
Lamb.
Godwin.
You don't like
Lamb
Godwin?
better.
Oh, God.
I said I like Godwin. I just
Yeah.
like Lamb better.
I'm going to take CeeDee Lamb as well.
God, I'm the only one in Godwin. And I love Lamb. But
I
come on,
actually-
guys.
I would have probably taken CeeDee Lamb even without a known landing spot in the NFL over Chris Godwin.
What?
Just the things that he can do, I feel like athletically he is better than Chris Godwin. And that's not a knock on Chris Godwin. I've been a Chris Godwin fan a long time. He went to Penn State. I'm a Penn State fan. But just some of the catches that I've seen CeeDee Lamb make while watching Oklahoma film, it's impressive. And it's close. It's not like I'm saying Lamb by a mile. But I would prefer CD over Chris Godwin.
Will Harris, don't let play when he die. Oh man! All right, so let's go ahead and go to Cooper or Evans. I feel like we're all going to be on the same page with this one, but we'll start out with Phil on this one.
Oh, see, now you're putting on the spot. I'm hoping I'm not on the different page. So I'm taking Cooper in that case. I think that one's actually pretty apparent to me. I'm fading Evans in most places I can. So give me Cooper in that situation.
All right, Michael, who you got?
Man, it's tough because Evans is so touchdown dependent, but he does get those touchdowns. I still think I'm going to go with Amari Cooper, who did have some dropsies when he was with the Raiders, but he seems to have gotten a lot better with that in Dallas. So
absolutely, it's more about his inconsistencies at this point. But Taylor, who you going with? You going with Evans or you going with Cooper?
I'm going with Mike Evans.
Ooh.
But I think it's close for me. It's close. I agree with everything that's said, although I kind of wonder, are we sure Amari Cooper is more consistent than Mike Evans? I mean, Amari Cooper's pretty up and down himself, and seems to leave us disappointed. I mean, Mike Evans just came off of a down year and he had 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns. So, I mean, you're assuming the floor with Mike Evans is 1,000 yards. And when I was digging a little bit more into his usage, the second half of the season, once Antonio Brown came around, and that was when Godwin was healthy too. Well, we say healthy, he's probably dinged up, but all three of them were playing the second half of the season, and Evans tied for the team leading targets, and he had his best fantasy stretch in those 8 weeks there. I think there's 2 games, week 17 being one of them, where he saw less than 6 targets. So he was seeing consistent target usage. And then where he's seeing those targets from Tom Brady is within 10 yards of the end zone. Just to not to give too much background, but in this research I was doing, Tom Brady led teams over the last 4 years have been like top 4 in passing attempts within the 10-yard line with the Patriots, and then last year with Tampa Bay. So I would assume that type of usage is going to continue. There's no reason to believe it won't. And so while I know he's TD dependent, I feel pretty confident that he's going to be sniffing double-digit touchdowns every year. So, I mean, I have him very close, and maybe I'm just being contrarian here, but I'll take Evans by a hair.
So I was sitting there and I did actually look into this because Tom Brady does attempt a lot of passes in the red zone. I think like over 40% of them or something like that went to running backs over the past 10 years. So that is something to think about. But yet Mike Evans, he loves these guys who can actually gain control of the ball, who have significant advantages. I mean, we sit there and we look at, God, who was it? Was it Aaron Rodgers? No. I don't remember the quarterback right now. I'll think of it in a second. But essentially, Tom Brady is very similar as to where he looks for positional advantages. And he relies on his receivers to get open based on what their strengths are. Oh, Russell Wilson, that's who it was. You know, like he went to DK Metcalf when he played smaller receivers. However, when he played like Patrick Peterson, I think he only targeted him 4 times, you know, down the field versus Tre'Davious White. He targeted like 8 times because Tre'Davious White is half the size of Patrick Peterson. So Tom Brady plays the same exact type thing where it's like, hey, you can kind of tell where Tom Brady's going based on the matchups of the defensive backs and where they're going. But I kind of went backward on this because now I got to bring up DJ Chark because I hate the disrespect that he's getting. I can't stand it. You know, we're sitting there, we're looking at, you know, almost record-setting numbers over the first 5 games where teams figured out Gardner Minshew in 2019. Once they figured him out and once they started playing, you know, these defenses, you know, interdivisional defenses, everything like that, where teams knew where they were going, he fell off. And last year, he was visually upset. Like, I mean, he's sitting there one time, I'll never forget it. He's sitting there, and he runs about a 12-yard out, and Gardner Minshew misses him by a mile, throws it out of bounds. Like, it wasn't even, like, close to being a reception. And DJ Chark put his hands on his head, put his hands up in the air, shook his head, and then walked out of bounds with his hands on his hip. It was second down when that happened. He was so pissed because he's so competitive that he ended up walking out of bounds because it was such a bad target. And this was halfway through the season after he just got bad target after bad target after bad target. Meanwhile, when he actually has accurate targets, he does perform. He's able to make contested catches, and overall, he's a good receiver who has speed, who has size, who can get down the field. You know, we look at what T. Higgins did, essentially, who does not have the same exact speed, but yet Trevor Lawrence was so accurate. You know, he was able to throw T. Higgins open on multiple different occasions. If we sit there and we look at it, I mean, is DJ Chark anywhere close to like the Michael Gallup or the Antonio Browns, or is he just getting so significantly undervalued that it's like a slap to the face? We'll start out with Phil on this one.
All right, I got some thoughts on this. He's really an interesting target this year, but you're right. The lack of chemistry with Minshew was brutal. I remember after that Week 6 game that they lost to Detroit, I don't know, 34-16 or something like that. He had 14 targets that game, only 7 catches, and afterwards in the post game, he's like, felt like we were open. He was vocal about it.
Yeah.
He was not on the same page with Minshew. And
that might have been
it was pretty apparent. It might have been. But if you think about it, right, with Lawrence, Lawrence is a 70% on target downfield rate. And when it comes to Chark, he has an average depth of target of 14.1, which would put him first with any other receiver with more than 90 yards. So you're going to pair Lawrence's great downfield abilities with a receiver that has a great ADOT. Why did I just get him as my wide receiver 4 in the Scott Fish Bowl? Like, how is he my wide receiver 4 at wide receiver 37 overall? Doesn't make sense.
Did you take 4 wide receivers to start out your Scott Fish Bowl roster?
I didn't. No.
I mean, Taylor, can you put any sense behind the madness or method behind the madness?
No, I can't because I have an irrational dislike for DJ Chark. So I will say I cannot be unbiased here.
Why?
Well, mainly because he face planted as a rookie. He's one of, I think it was like 3 rookies that has ever returned to any sort of production after having such a poor rookie season. I don't know if I said that right, but and yes, he had a great second year, but I still had the bad taste of the rookie year in my mouth. So I was expecting that to be the. I'm still looking at that second year as an outlier, and so it's hard for me to get past that. So I think he's fine. He's obviously better than what he looked like as a rookie, but I just don't think I will ever look at him and say that's the wide receiver 1 on Jacksonville, and I want a piece of that. I honestly will not. I've never had a share.
Who is the wide receiver one on Jacksonville?
Travis Etienne. No, I mean, I'm not good. I really am not good at coaching, like predicting coaching tendencies and things like that. I'm interested as an Ohio State fan. I watched Urban Meyer for however many years, and I am interested to see how he's going to orchestrate that offense, because rarely did he rely on an alpha receiver at Ohio State, even though he did have some good passers there. He had, say what you want, Cardell Jones was a good passer for college. JT Barrett was not a good passer, but accumulated some numbers. But some of those guys he had there, even Terry McLaurin, who has proved in the NFL that he can be an alpha receiver, was not really used in that way at Ohio State. And for whatever reason, he has this propensity to shift towards the Paris Campbells of the world and the Curtis Samuels of the world. And so it feels like a gadgety offense. And I don't know that he's going to try to bring one-to-one to the NFL necessarily, but that's what makes me give a little bit of pause to just assume that Chark's going to be this alpha that dominates the targets. I think you're going to see a lot of Laviska involved in unique ways, Travis Etienne used in unique ways, and Colin Johnson. Don't forget about Colin Johnson, Chase.
Dude, Colin Johnson's the most important part of this offense.
He is the
alpha,
the tight end.
She's going to be that big inside receiver. Just watch. But I mean, sitting there and looking at it, Michael, do you think this gadgety offense that he ran in college is going to translate over to the pros? Like, are they going to be as gadgety, or what do you think?
No, because they can't. It hasn't translated over in the past. That doesn't mean it won't at some point, and maybe it will. Maybe Urban Meyer's that guy. I'm not the biggest Urban Meyer fan.
You're a Penn State fan, so I'm sorry.
But I didn't like Urban Meyer when he was with Florida either, if it makes you feel any better. You take a dart throw at the Jaguars roster and throw it at anybody and say, that guy could outlast Urban Meyer as a member of the Jacksonville Jaguars. You never know. He could flame out like Chip Kelly did. A lot of these college coaches, the second time around is usually where it works. For me, I think part of the problem with Chark is twofold. One, Twitter. When Twitter decides that everybody hates someone, you have to hate that person. And if you don't agree, you're stupid. Secondly, Laviska Shenault, when he was starting to get more involved at the end of the year, the recency bias comes in. Chark was down a little bit last year. He fought through some injuries, missed 3 games. But honestly, the value that you're getting for him right now, people are just so down on him. I think another reason, too, is he didn't have the traditional third-year breakout that we expect for wide receivers because he took a step back from year 2 to year 3. Let's not forget, Mike Glennon and Jake Luton were throwing him the ball at times. And Gardner Minshew's rookie season was something that just doesn't usually happen for a virtually unknown rookie.
It was great in his first 5 games, and then after that, he fell off. Even in the rookie season, it just looked great because of his personality, his persona, and the fact that nobody saw him coming.
Exactly.
Nobody saw him coming.
Nick Foles didn't see it either. But it's just one of those things where if people are going to give this guy away, take a shot on him. If you're throwing out a rookie second-round draft pick, do it. You're getting him in the 9th or 10th round of your seasonal league. You could do worse. Would you guys rather have DJ Chark or Antonio Brown?
That's the question, and I would 100% take Chark. Like
Same.
10 out of 10. Not even 9 out of 10. I would take it 10 out of 10. And then on top of that, I actually traded a 111 in a single quarterback league for DJ Chark. That's how much I like him this year.
There you go. I'll take Chark as well.
Taylor would take Antonio Brown. Look at that face. Look at that dude's face.
No, I'm trying to listen to the viewpoints here, and maybe it. In my head, it makes sense to take DJ Chark because for all the reasons we've listed. I have a really deep bias that it's hard for me to overcome. But yes, I will admit that Chark is probably the better bet for 2021 over AB. So especially at similar cost.
Like the Jaguars offense, who now has this new system. And by the way, to a point that I meant to make earlier, to Michael's point, we have Darrell Bevell running this offense, right? And Darrell Bevell is extremely, extremely talented when it comes to coaching quarterbacks. You got Matthew Stafford's average depth of target up, or average average yards per target, whatever it was. Anyways, he ended up bringing that up to like 7.8, which was the second highest of Matthew Stafford's career over the past 2 years. Russell Wilson was able to attain, at least I think like 7.6 the majority of his time. It's very, very crucial to the development of Trevor Lawrence to have a good quarterback coach. Now he has an offensive coordinator who is literally a guru at downfield targets. He works a lot off of play action fake. He works a lot off of having a good defense and being able to control the ball. However, with the Lions, we saw that was not the case. It was always the case in Seattle. It was not the case last year with the Lions, yet Matthew Stafford still succeeded. This upcoming year, we could actually see an increase in volume for Jacksonville as they try to slow down, I guess defenses. I guess offenses. I think that we're still going to be looking at the Jaguars passing probably, close to 35, 40 times a game minimum. So sitting there and looking at it, I like your cat in the background. Very majestic.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize you guys could see her.
It looks like she's pinned to the wall.
So I have this cat tree that's usually behind me, and I usually move it out of the camera. But she found her way up there.
No, it's cool. It's cool. I was sitting there, I was
is.
looking at like a shadow creeping, and I was like, who is creeping up behind him? Is it somebody coming to kill Phil? Somebody coming to kill Phil. All right. No, but sitting there looking at it, I think that we're sitting at 35 to 40 times minimum per game for pass attempts for rookie quarterback, which we saw what happened with Joe Burrow. Sorry, Taylor. Either way, is this team able to put up just as many pass attempts per game, or able to keep fantasy points wise with some of these other pass heavy teams like the Cowboys, who we talked about earlier, or as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who we talked about earlier? We'll start out with Taylor on this one.
I was gonna say, don't start with me on this one.
Okay, we'll start with Michael on this one.
I think at first they very well could. It's going to be one of those things where, new offense, and I just brought up their schedule here because I wanted to see what their schedule looks like. So they start with the Texans, team in shambles. Then they go to the Broncos. I don't know what the Broncos defense is like necessarily. Von Miller comes back. So I don't know. We'll just say it's a middle of the pack defense.
They added on some great they added some great guys in secondary. They added Kyle Fuller, I believe, and somebody else that I'm missing, but their secondary improved significantly compared to last year.
Okay, but they're the Broncos offense with Drew Lock, who knows what he's going to do, so they could be giving the ball away. So Jacksonville's offense could be on the field a lot. Then they got the Cardinals, not the best defense either. The Bengals, Taylor might be able to talk about if the Bengals did anything defensively. No. And then the Titans.
They'll be bad.
Didn't they add Lawson? That's something.
They added players, but I think they're still going to be pretty bad.
So then they play the Titans, Dolphins, Seahawks, Bills, Colts, 49ers. And so it starts to get a little harder. So I think that's going to be kind of deceptive overall. They could start out really strong points-wise. We've seen it happen before. And I think they kind of taper off. And, ETN shows he's a rookie. Trevor Lawrence might have some growing pains. So I think it's going to be deceptive.
All right, Phil, are you sitting there thinking that this offense could, put up a bunch of yardage? Could Trevor Lawrence break some records this year for rookie quarterbacks, at least?
So is he going to pull a Herbert is kind of immediately where my mind goes. I can see the touchdown and yards records being in play. I don't think there's much holding him back to achieve those ceilings.
Sorry.
Oh, the coach. Oh, just the head coach, potentially. That minor detail. I mean, do they just? How many attempts is Lawrence going to be throwing week one when they play the very lonely Texans? Like, it's going to be so interesting to see. Are they really giving him the keys to the Ferrari to just take this thing over, or is they going to kind of ease him into it? And we're going to see him not meeting the expectations of not only first overall or dynasty players, because dynasty folks, he's already QB 8 in startups or something around that range. That's so high for an incoming rookie.
Quarterback.
I think they're going to break the passing. They're going to break the passing attempt record when they play Cincinnati.
Like both teams might.
No, because Cincinnati's rushing defense is worse. They might just run RPAs all game.
It's very possible, but I do think they could throw 120 times that game with the two teams.
Well, that's kind of like what's throwing off how I'm trying to project Lawrence and the Jaguars offense. I already mentioned that in my head I have an idea of how Urban runs offenses, and I can't necessarily say that's going to translate. But that's what's in my head. And I just, along kind of those same lines, if Urban has his thumbprint at all in the offense, with a quarterback like Lawrence, who actually is like a good runner, how much are they going to be using? Not even just like, are they going to turn around and hand the ball off 30 times a game? I doubt they're going to be that type of running team. But with jet sweeps and things like that, getting those other gadgety guys involved, I just wonder that is Lawrence going to be ripping the ball down the field 40 times a game? I kind of don't really think so, which I think kind of limits the ceiling a little bit. I think it could. It'd be fun if he did. I just don't know that that's going to be the team that we see regularly, because I don't have Justin Herbert's game log up now. I can go look, but he definitely had some high pass attempt games. I know, like Joe Burrow, who would have broken records and been rookie of the year if Justin, if he stayed healthy. But I'm not bitter. But yeah, I mean, he was having games where he threw 63 times or something against Cleveland on Thursday Night Football. So like that team was airing it out. I don't know about Herbert, so I'll check. But is he going to have the volume that we're expecting would be necessary? Like, I don't know. That's where it's hard for me to project, like whether he's going to get that volume.
So let's go ahead and let's talk about the running game for this, because we're talking about, how often they're going to, in the pass ball, running the ball. Like, is James Robinson going to output Travis Etienne in the first year in fantasy? Let's just go with one-word answers, because I'm sure we're on similar viewpoints with this. Start with Phil. Who do you have leading the team in fantasy points for the running back position?
Etienne. I don't buy the fact they spent a first-round pick on a satellite back that's going to play in the slot. I think James Robinson, which is so unfortunate given his historic rookie season, I think he takes a back seat. Give me Etienne all day.
For me, Etienne leads in points, but Robinson leads in touches. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think Etienne will be more efficient.
I feel like I'm copying out on all these, but that's kind of what I do. What's interesting is I don't remember the exact stat, but you remember how James Robinson had like a crazy low number of like carries inside the 10 or something, because the offense was never down there. So like we don't know what his capability is as a goal line back, because that would be something to be interesting, is if we saw last year he's used heavily near the goal line and maybe he's the guy that comes in and cleans up some drives. But I don't even know that we know that James Robinson is that guy. And if he's not, if we don't know that he even has a secure red zone type of usage role, I would be scared to bet on him having more points than Etienne. So when I think about PPR, I think Etienne's going to be used a lot more catching passes as well. I would probably put my money on Etienne.
So I'm actually going to go with Etienne normally, but I'm going to put a contrarian take out there where I think that James Robinson could be just as valuable as Etienne, but he's going to be more touchdown dependent, which is better for best ball. I also think that they're going to spread this offense out. I think they're going to go 4 wide the majority of the time. And when they do that, James Robinson is going to be on the field for a lot of those times. When they end up going 4 wide and they force, only 6 defenders in the box, you're going to see James Robinson get a lot of handoffs on draw plays. It's going to force one of the defenders to fade back into coverage because, of course, they have to, worry about the guys coming across the middle, especially with Urban Meyer's and Darrell Bevell's offense, where they always have some guy coming across the middle. Meanwhile, you're going to be left on one-on-one to tackle James Robinson, and we all know, we've seen it, how tough James Robinson is bring down in one-on-one carries, especially up the middle. I think James Robinson could absolutely rip off a couple of 10, 15-yard gains, and when that happens, it's going to be very tough to take him off the field, for Etienne. Now, Etienne could still end up breaking off 60-yard runs, but they're going to wait to do that. They're going to wait till like 2nd and 1 to put Etienne on the field to call a draw play like that, so that they still have a possibility of picking up the first down, after that. So Etienne's going to come in very situationally. I think that James Robinson, if he proves that he's just as good as he was last year and just as efficient, I don't know how they can take him off the field. I just don't. I understand the first-round capital. I get all that. And I'm not a James Robinson truther by any stretch of the imagination. However, I could see a situation like 80% chance, as long as James Robinson is decent, that they actually opt to go with James Robinson and save Etienne for another year before they put more mileage onto those legs. Yeah. But
Chase, if the Jags have the ball at the 1 and it's 3rd down, who's getting that carry? Is it T-Law or
Trevor
J-Rob?
Lawrence?
Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about now. Lawrence is a massive human who's going to be getting that goal line sneak.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is something I swear it's better for best ball, essentially, for all case scenarios. For Etienne, for Lawrence and for James Robinson. But I still think that James Robinson is probably over Etienne or close to Etienne in production this year, way more than what people give him credit for. By the time the season starts, James Robinson is going to be way undervalued, just because all the hype train is going to start again. It's literally going to restart everything we saw from the draft, and everything that got picked up from the hype train around the draft time is going to end up doubling once the season goes to start. So let's go ahead and let's hop on to this Cam Akers situation. I don't want to spend much time with this. We've heard it all through Twitter sphere, through Facebook, the situation, the scenario. Let's go ahead and real quick, let's talk about who you're picking up in replacement if you end up having Cam Akers, and who you think could end up being the lead back. Let's say if Henderson goes down, if he doesn't go down, who could end up taking that Cam Akers had? We'll start out with Phil.
Yeah. So I luckily, I don't know if you call this luckily, I only have one share of Cam Akers, and it's in a league where I also have Henderson. So I wasn't left scrambling too much, but I feel like the Rams have never truly committed to Henderson. I think we've seen this story before. I have and the guy who owns him in one of my leagues sent pretty much an offer to everyone, said, you can have D-Hen for a 2023 first. Everybody rejected it. But most people are hyping Henderson as a top 15 or 20 running back. And I mean, it's a weird limbo spot. So am I investing in Henderson? Yes, as a low-end RB2, but I'm not going to be paying a 2023 first for him in Dynasty. It just makes it so murky. If anything, all of this just means I'm bumping Stafford up further up my QB list for this year.
Love that take. Michael, what you got, man? Like, where are you sitting? Because you're the expert in Dynasty, so we're talking Dynasty right now. Where are you feeling? Like, how are you feeling about Akers' future, about Henderson? You know, who do you think is going to be the lead back this year? What are you thinking?
I mean, Henderson looked pretty good when he had some opportunity last year. As you know, Akers
That's right, baby.
Came on late. So I think it's going to be Henderson. Phil, you said that they never really committed to him. They might not have a choice.
Yeah.
Xavier Jones is here. If I remember correctly, he's a guy from SMU. I could be confusing him with Rico Dowdle. I don't know. When it comes to us diving that deep, some of these guys kind of blend together. I hate to say it. But I think it's going to be Henderson, and I think Phil's right again. It just could mean more for Stafford. It could mean more 3 wide receiver sets. So, you know, as far as Akers' future, I don't know. This is an Achilles. It's not like he's a left guard. It's not like he's a linebacker or anything like that. He's a running back. This could be tough. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a medical expert. I really wish him a fast and speedy recovery. The good thing is he's young enough that, you know, hopefully his body bounces back. And I like what Mark's saying here. The Rams should get Duke Johnson. That would be awesome. Duke
Johnson was definitely somebody that I brought up. I think that there are better options out there. I think that Todd Gurley would actually be a better option because Darrell Henderson did catch passes in college and whatnot. I feel like they need, you know, somebody that's more straight line runner, also goal line back type player. You know, Todd Gurley knows the offense. Obviously, he might have some bad blood there, but we don't know what happened behind the scenes. As for Achilles injuries, there's something that I wrote last year for COVID, and it talked about how, you know, they're trying to do the same thing with Achilles they did with ACLs, where they're prehabbing stuff and they're actually getting things set up for a faster recovery from Achilles injuries. And we saw Emmanuel Sanders actually get somewhat of a quick recovery, but it is one of the more detrimental injuries, which could end a player's career. It's happened before. So I do like the take. I mean, Taylor, is there somebody that you're considering coming in and taking that job over? Do you like Xavier Jones, who did, by the way, go to SMU? Jake Funk? Anybody that you're considering here?
Funk. Sorry, I forgot about him. Jake Funk, he's a big heart guy. He went to Maryland. He's like a little bowling ball. Reminds me of like a little mini Mike Allstott. But I don't think he's going to be fantasy relevant. He might get a carrier to play some special teams. Don't blow your fab money on Jake Funk.
No, don't you know you have to recommend the third string guy down the road so that if he does hit, you look like a genius? Come on. You don't say it's not going to work out. You're like, hey guys, keep your eyes on Funk. Okay, you heard it here first.
And you can victory lap and ruin Twitter for the day.
I mean,
exactly. If you're wrong, who cares? Yeah, it's a long shot.
That's right.
Mark said get funky in the chat.
That's right, get funky. No, I mean, I've been on the Henderson train since he was coming out of Memphis. Loved him. Hated it when he landed behind Gurley. Then I hated it when Cam Akers got drafted, and so you would think that would cool me off, but I have not. And so I'm excited to see Henderson. I have not, and I will not. I'm excited to see Henderson get hopefully the lion's share of the work there at running back, because I really do think he can be productive. By no means do I, plan on bank on him being like a top 10 running back in 21. Like, that's not my expectations for him. As far as Akers, though, like I think he's interesting. Again, it comes down to what your team looks like, but he's one of the guys that, like, you're not selling probably for less than a first, and I'm not buying for a first anywhere. But I think if you could buy for a second, or say like a third and a startable deeper flex guy or something, just depending on what the Akers team manager needs. Like, if you can get him, I think once the hype starts to build, like I am not banking on Akers ever making a return to what he was, but he is going to try to make a return, and he is going to be only like 23 when that happens, and the hype is going to start building the first time there's a video of him working out. I think there is a avenue in the future to be able to get a first for him. So just to play like the stock market game for Dynasty, not that I would ever plan on, hey, I'm going to grab him and hopefully get a top 10 running back down the road. It's, hey, maybe I can grab him for cheaper now and get him for a first, trade him for a first later.
Dave just commented in the chat. He traded Akers and Emmanuel Sanders for 2022 first. I don't even care where that 2022 first is. I think I'd take that right now.
Yeah, I would take any first for Akers. Yeah.
But I mean, we talked about last night on the Dynasty intervention. I mean, like it's almost worth waiting until next year, until the hype starts to build, because everybody loves Akers, and sitting there and hearing the reports out of camp that he's planting his foot and that has just as much burst as last year. It almost makes it worth it waiting to trade him, because I feel like right now is the low point versus saving it for later. But there are people looking to capitalize. Maybe his, injuries don't go like you want them to do, or injury recovery doesn't go like you want them to go. So I know that Phil, I got to get you out of here.
No, it's all good.
You got plans. Taylor and Michael, do you guys have a little bit of time? Are you guys pressed for time?
I got like another 15 minutes or so.
Okay, cool. Taylor,
I just wrote in the chat that my laptop's about to die, so if you can allow me to go get my charger, I can give you some more time. I don't have it with me.
Go vanish into the night.
Yeah, I'm gonna vanish for it. I'll be back.
And we'll let Phil do his sign off real quick. His
awesome.
outro.
Well, Taylor, Michael, awesome having you on the show. Absolute pleasure. And Chase, thanks again for putting this on. You can follow me at Dynasty Society _ on Twitter. You're going to see a lot more action once training camp starts. We'll be walking through, I think I'll be doing some features on Rondale Moore, Trey Sermon, Rashad Bateman, and then some of my favorite flyers, the Cornell Powells and Javion Hawkins of the world. So looking forward to seeing what the Twitter sphere is going to be up to in the next few months. So great show today. And again, you can follow me at Dynasty Society _ on Twitter.
Love it, man. Appreciate you for coming on once again.
Always a pleasure.
I'll see you next week, and I'm sure I'll talk to you before then. So have a good night, man. Have fun.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
See you, Phil.
All right, so let's go ahead and let's dive into some of these other running backs real quick.
Sure.
We're sitting there, we're looking at like DeAndre Swift being discussed constantly, right? Like all these running backs are in their second year. I've never seen a more hyped year for second year running backs, and rightfully so. I mean, we have some great running backs on the docket. But let's go ahead and talk about some of these other running backs, right? Some of the ones that aren't as obvious. I want to sit there and I want to talk about like Michael Pirine. I'm talking about Joshua Kelly, Darrington Evans, Keyshawn Vaughn, J.J. Taylor, Eno Benjamin. I might have missed one. If you guys have another one, please make sure you guys lay it out. But the second-year running backs who, like aren't getting as much attention.
So I got some notes on all these guys. Do you want me to just run through the list, tell you what I think real quick?
I don't know. Like, are we prepared for that?
Yeah, that'll be fun, right? And then Taylor can see if he agrees with me or not. How about that?
Yeah, I'm going to listen because I honestly have no idea what the topic is.
It is the second-year running backs that aren't getting as much attention as like, the Zach Mosses of the world, the Clyde Edwards-Hilairs.
Got it. Okay.
That type of thing. So like we're sitting there talking about these second-year running backs who just don't get the attention on Twitter, who need attention, who need their back rubbed every once in a while, who need a foot massage. They work just as hard as these other players do, but yet they don't have the opportunity. And so Twitter just ignores them. Instead of rubbing their back, rubbing their feet, taking care of them and coddling them and making the best that they could possibly be by positive influence, they're just ignored and shunned into the corner. All right, I'm done.
I'll run through this. If you listen to the Dynasty Rewind, you know I'm a huge Michael Pirine fan. He should be the starting running back for the New York Jets. I think he is better than Michael Carter. There, I said that. Dave, I'm going to disagree with you in just a minute, though. Josh McKelly, he had some opportunities last year behind Austin Eckler, and when Austin Eckler went out, he just kept fumbling the ball. And I believe he lost his job to Larry Roundtree. As far as Darrington Evans,
wait. God, I hate this because I want to comment on each one.
Okay, go ahead. You comment. Go ahead.
Wait. But I mean, I know you want to run through them all, right?
Yeah. I love running through stuff. Sorry.
No. But all right, let's do a run through and then real quick, we'll address each one. But I want to base it off of what your take is on that player.
Okay.
All right. So Michael Pirine, I think is good, but I don't know if he has the upside and he wasn't drafted by the coaching staff. Taylor, do you have a different take?
I agree.
I have a same take. The whole coaching staff change has me curious as to what their plans would be with him, if anything major.
Joshua Kelly got ripped in the backfield, by Ndamukong Suh before he even got the ball on one of his fumbles. The other fumble, he was literally a centimeter from the ground, and his elbow came down, and the only place that it could possibly come down without dislocating his shoulder came down on a player's knee. And so unless he dropped the ball and released it so he wouldn't dislocate his shoulder, that would have been a fumble. So that was 2 fumbles that shouldn't have been fumbles.
But the same thing applies to him that applies to Pirine, different coaching staff.
Yes.
And drafted a running back. I like Joshua Kelly a lot. I liked him a lot more than I thought I was going to last year. When he's getting the opportunities early, I'm like, this is it.
He set off.
Might have a nice stash here, right? Because the Chargers seem to like to imply the 1-2 punch. But then Joshua Jackson started coming around. They had what the hell's the guy's name? I should know this name. He played with the Jets. He played with the Dolphins.
Kalen Ballage. Thank you.
Kalen Ballage was out there. They're scraping guys off the street instead of playing Joshua Kelly. So that kind of concerns me. Again, different coaching staff. Again, Darrington Evans, I think he's toast. I am not stashing him anywhere.
Excuse you.
I think an injury has to happen in order for Darrington Evans to actually have a play on third down. He actually didn't play a lot of third downs last year.
Yeah, but all these guys need something to break in their favor to be relevant.
No, so. I think Joshua Kelly is independent value. They drafted a 6th-round running back over, drafting an early round running back. Joshua Kelly's a previous 4th rounder, obviously. And that.
But what's his role going to be if Eckler's healthy? How much are you really expecting out of Kelly? You're needing something to happen to Eckler for Kelly to actually be somewhat relevant. I'm not saying Eckler's going to get 300 carries, but I think he's going to be heavily involved in the offense. There's still
150, 200 carries to have possibly, or touches to have in this offense. I think Joshua Kelly has standalone value. If okay. Darrington Evans, though, does not have standalone value.
He does not.
There's no chance in hell. Josh Kelly at least has a shot at if he can beat out Roundtree, right? Am I wrong?
I agree.
If he beat out Roundtree, he has standalone value.
And Jackson.
But if Derrick Henry misses, what do you guys think about this? If Derrick Henry misses a game, I could see them running the ball 6 times, and you think Darrington Evans is going to be the man, and he just lays a big goose egg for you.
He's not a pass catching running back. He's a guy that type guy, but he fits in this offense still. The issue is with Darrington Evans, he doesn't have the weight to run the wide zone run scheme, which is what they run over there. So essentially, you want to have guys who have bigger, who have bursts, which he has. But they want bigger guys who, if they end up at the line of scrimmage, meeting a guy at the line of scrimmage, they can still fall forward for 3 yards. Darrington Evans doesn't have that. Either way, Darrington Evans still has value for me if Derrick Henry gets hurt. He's not dead to me. He still exists.
14 carries for 54 yards last year for Evans.
Yeah, not great.
Is that bad?
Good.
No,
Right.
I mean, when I went through the list too, like there was none of them here that I feel passionately about. Like I mentioned, a Daryl Henderson is one I feel passionate about as a running back. None of these guys in general did I have any ties to coming in. I would say like Darrington Evans was one I did kind of like coming out in general as a prospect. Didn't love him, but I liked him. It's just like you said though, with that landing spot, it's extremely dependent on something major happening in front of them. And like you said, even then, we don't know that they now have Julio. Like, I don't expect him to throw the ball 60 times a game for, 5 games in a row. But if there's going to be one game where Derrick Henry strains a hamstring, do I doubt that they couldn't throw the ball 40 times to A.J. Brown and Julio? Like, they definitely could. And Darrington Evans then does nothing. So, yeah, he's the only one that I kind of even liked coming out, but unfortunately doesn't have a clear path to production or value.
All right, Keyshawn Vaughn, Michael, what you got?
So, Keyshawn Vaughn, there was a game where he was catching some passes, and I was hopeful. But now with Giovanni Bernard coming in, I think he got a concussion too, got whacked pretty hard. Keyshawn Vaughn was a guy I liked a lot. I liked his tape. He runs hard. He was an angry runner. But then, I thought maybe he had a chance to steal that job from Rojo. They signed Leonard Fournette, and now it looks like he's just buried. If I have him somewhere and I could keep him stashed on a taxi squad, I'm going to keep him stashed. But it feels like a long shot right now. It just really does.
I agree. I remember when people were ranking him inside the first round, depending on landing spot. And landing spot doesn't matter. Landing spot does not matter. You would say situations change. No, landing spot fucking matters. And people always discount landing spot. And we're seeing it right now. We're seeing it with Zach Moss. We're seeing it with player after player. Landing spot matters, especially in dynasty leagues. So I'm on the same boat with Keyshawn Vaughn. J.J. Taylor was a hot topic.
Yeah, so I like J.J. Taylor. He was actually I didn't know anything about him until Nate brought him up on the show one week. He likes J.J. Taylor a lot. J.J. Taylor's small. I think he's 5'5", 5'6". He looks to me in that offense like he's going to be the next James White. So once James White is on and once Mac Jones is the solidified starter, I think he's going to be good. So you're going to have to stash him. He's going to be a year or two away. But
they always are.
I'll tell you what, man, when he's got the ball in his hands, he can cut, he can run, he is quick, he's elusive, and he's small. So he's hard to catch. If a lanky cornerback's going to go after him, he's got to reach down for the guy practically. So J.J. Taylor, I tried to scoop him up off the waiver wire last year. I missed him in a bunch of spots, tried to trade for him cheaply. But then, a lot of times, like if we're in leagues with people that aren't in the fantasy industry, like, well, what do you know that I don't? Like, I'm going to keep him. You know what I mean? Like, okay, whatever. So, but I like J.J. Taylor. Yeah, like him a lot. Stash him for sure.
I think he's a special teamer to me. Taylor, you got a different take?
I was trying to find my rookie evaluation sheet that I had used for last year or whatever that would have been when he was coming in, because I really wanted to find my notes on him. But no, I didn't really like him. I'm kind of with you that I think it's. So do you think James White was a product of Bill Belichick or Tom Brady or both, or what it is? Because like he saw the production during that time span with Tom Brady, but now when you look at James White's most productive season and what 2021 is going to look like, where are the similarities? It's Belichick still there. But other than that, are we sure that the James White type role is going to be one that carries over year after year in the New England offense? It could be. I don't know. It's just kind of an open-ended question. And if it doesn't, then J.J. Taylor definitely doesn't have any role in the future.
I think we're looking more towards a Corey Dillon type future with Damian Harris. So we could see what happens. I mean, it's very, like you said, open-ended question as to where we don't really see the future. But let's go to my favorite dark horse running back moving forward. We have Eno Benjamin. Eno Benjamin sits at third on the depth chart behind Chase Edmonds, who struggles with health issues and can't take on a full role. And then we have James Conner, who obviously, has not been able to stay healthy with Pittsburgh. So for Eno Benjamin to see any kind of role, it's going to have to rely on injuries, be at injuries seem like they're there. I mean, out of college, he was one of my favorite prospects coming out. I could not believe he lasted to the 7th round. I had him as a 4th round prospect. Obviously, I'm not as intelligent as the NFL because 32 teams passed on him 3 times in a row, 4 times if you include the 4th round. How y'all feeling about Eno? Is he just dead to y'all?
Benjamin could not get on the field over Jonathan Ward last year, who was an undrafted. That does concern me. I thought Benjamin to me looked like a guy who was, like if you put on tape, like, he could be an NFL running back. I didn't think he really did anything special. He wasn't anything super flashy. If he played in the XFL, he would be the XFL MVP every year.
Donald Parham.
Yeah, Donald Parham, exactly. But I don't see it happening. And I also don't think that the Arizona Cardinals are as good of a running team as we think that they are. I think what do they call it? The air raid offense. They want to throw the ball. So it's going to be a little bit of a ways away for Benjamin to get on the field. But, and hey, listen, Husker, DKB, he loves Chase, you love I'm not the biggest fan. Taylor, I'll find out how you feel in a second. But that's what makes the fantasy community great. Like, we could all disagree and talk about it, but we're all here to have fun. Except for some people, they're here to just argue.
I love that. I love that so much. I need to write that down.
Sadly true.
It is.
Yeah, my was another one. Like I am very much. I don't want to say a slave. I very much pay attention to draft capital because that's a pretty good indicator, among other things. It's not the only indicator, but it's a good indicator of a success. And so he was already behind the 8 ball. Now, if a 7th rounder comes in, an undrafted guy, Philip Lindsay does something in his rookie year, obviously you adjust. And that's an outlier, and you go from there. I mean, he didn't see the field as a rookie. So I have no reason to believe that I've seen anything that's going to – they went and got another running back to fill the Drake role in James Conner. Whether it's filling the role directly, whatever. They didn't feel comfortable enough with Benjamin there. So, and even this is, we talk about the changeover from coaching staffs one to another, and what does that mean for the incumbent? Even in this case, there is no turnover. And I'm like, okay, well, if the same coaching staff literally wouldn't give him a carry last year, what changes this year where they say, you know what, Benjamin, I think you could be the guy. And I think if you said Edmonds and or Connor, which with Connor, isn't unlikely that he misses some time due to an injury. I would be shocked if they go a different route of like signing somebody off the street versus just saying, okay, plug in there. So I think, I'm all out on to say the least.
No. I mean, you guys both can miss out on the next Chris Carson, but it's okay. I forgive you guys. So no, has to earn work in the passing game as well. He's very undersized running back when it comes to being a pounder up the middle. And obviously with Kyler Murray there, he likes to run the ball, so I could see how people are fading that. However, with him being pretty much free at this point, I like invest in that stash on the taxi squad. So let's go ahead and finish this show up, right? Let's go ahead and close the show out. And I want to talk about the number 1 running back that's in their second year, who has potential to lead their division in fantasy points. So let's go ahead and name some real quick. We have like A.J. Dillon, who's behind Aaron Jones. I don't see that happening unless Aaron Jones gets an injury, right? We have C.H., right, who still ends up having Austin Eckler in his way. Josh Jacobs possibly, maybe, right? We have Javonte Williams over there, Melvin Gordon. We have DeAndre Swift, who, has Montgomery. Same deal as A.J. Dillon, essentially. Montgomery, Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook. We have J.K. Dobbins, who has Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, and Nick Chubb, who could be the top running back of the season. We'll see what happens. If you guys had to pick a second-year back to lead their division, and let me hear it in the chat too. If you have a second-year back who could lead their division in fantasy points for the running back position, obviously, who will it be? There's a lot up in the air.
Yeah, I think this is a toss-up for me. But if I am going to be pressed to pick one, I will actually go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And that is because I am expecting big things out of him this year. But also when I look in his division, he really needs to outscore Josh Jacobs and Austin Eckler, which I think he can do. I don't want to steal anyone's thunder on another selection, but the other person I was considering, I think he's got a little bit stiffer competition of the guy in front of him that very well could lead the league in rushing again. So I'm going to go Edwards-Helaire.
Gotta hate you. Michael, what you got?
Because you love Edwards-Helaire as well?
No.
I agree with Taylor. I think it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And this is not, don't forget, the question is not who do we like better. It's who do we think could lead their division.
It's the same thing. It's the same
thing. I personally, of the whole list, I like Jonathan Taylor the best, to be perfectly honest with you. But that being said, he's in the same division as Derrick Henry.
Yep.
So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you look at, again, who's in his division.
Hey, don't forget about David Johnson, okay?
Mark Ingram. There's a lot there in Houston.
Not bad. I think Jonathan Taylor could outrush the entire Texans team, to be perfectly honest with you, whoever they throw out there at running back. But, you look at Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We talk about Josh Jacobs in Las Vegas. Sorry, I don't even know where the hell the Raiders are half the time. Kenyon Drake is going to take some away from Josh Jacobs. Austin Eckler, he could definitely outrush him. Austin Eckler, I think better receiver than rusher. That's me. And then Denver, is it going to be Melvin Gordon? Is it going to be Javonte Williams? Some people are saying Javonte Williams from the get-go. Even so, I think, Clyde Edwards-Helaire could outproduce Javonte Williams as well. So that's why he's my guy. I thought about James Robinson for a second, then I forgot that Indianapolis was in the AFC South as well. So it takes it up.
I have to go with Antonio Gibson.
I thought you were going to do that.
But Saquon's coming back. You got
Zeke. Miles Sanders even.
Sanders
is tough. It's tough, but sitting there and looking at possibly Ezekiel Elliott, fumbling the ball, which he had issues with, and there's been no reports of him working with anybody to get better with his fumbling, which I thought was weird. Like every year that we see like a running back struggle with fumbles, they go to T. Barber. T. Barber puts him with, his best trainers. Like it was just weird that Zeke never went to another organization that we saw, and I could be wrong on that, but I just never saw any news on it as to where he worked on his fumbles. Thought it was very strange. Sitting there and looking at it, Antonio Gibson was mainly out-snapped on third downs while we were sitting there and looking at while he was healthy. Like he primarily played the first and second out back while he was healthy. Meanwhile, he still finished as RB13. He didn't know how to pass block. He didn't know how to sit there and run routes and chip block. I think that Antonio Gibson, if he could take over a role where he plays, I think there are like 300 snaps for running back played on third down, or 400 snaps for running back played on third down. I think if he could assume a 60% snap share on third down, where he's learning how to run block, where he's learning how to chip and run routes out of that, 6% snap share could end up adding a significant amount of value. We saw what J.D. McKissick did with that. I think that we could easily see Antonio Gibson finish inside the top 5, undoubtedly. Like, I don't think there's really a question that we could see him finish outside the top 5 if he assumes that role. I think J.D. McKissick is prepping himself for his second NFL or his 5th NFL team. I think that Gibson's going to take over that main role.
I think a dark horse. I was trying to go back through the divisions here to see who we might be forgetting. I think dark horse. I saw that. A dark horse could be DeAndre Swift. Now, some things need to go right for him. A lot of people are down because the team's going to be so bad. I, for one, don't really believe that. I think a bad team can cap it upside a little bit, but I don't think it prevents a player from being fantasy relevant. So Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook, David Montgomery, on the surface is pretty stiff competition. But as I was looking through those teams, I'm like, there's some question marks there. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back, what does that do to Aaron Jones? If anything, maybe nothing. Dalvin Cook has had some injury concerns in the past. Maybe he's past those, who knows? And then David Montgomery, no one knows what we're getting out of him this year. He's pretty hot button guy. So I was like, Swift could be like a dark horse. That would be interesting. I think he's one of my favorite. I think he's my highest rated out of these second year guys in Dynasty. No, he's right behind Jonathan Taylor, I believe. So it'd be interesting. I could see it, but a lot needs to break his way, I believe.
Yeah, I can see it happening 100%. I love Swift. I think that he ends up playing the slot a little more often. I think he assumes the Austin Eckler role. But that's going to end the show for us. let's go ahead and get us out of here. Taylor, we'll start with you. Where can we find you? What are you doing over there? What are you doing over there on Twitter, huh? I never know what you're doing. I never know what you're doing.
Just meandering around. So today I was doing the trivia stuff, but you can find me on Twitter @_Taylor Cornell. If you want to sift through all my weird tweets from today, I've got a couple cool graphs up there. I was looking at teams that have given their running backs 20+ carries in a game. Trying to see whether we can make any conclusions about like committees, like, what teams typically go with a committee approach. And it's pretty interesting that, some of these teams like San Francisco are on the way low end of teams that have given a running back 20+ carries in a game, yet they're pretty high up on games where they have 20+ carries as a team. Like, they run the ball a lot. They just don't typically. What's that mean for Trey Sermon? What's it mean for Raheem Mostert? Who knows? Stay tuned. Check me out. You might find the answer and many other shenanigans out there. How was
he's
that?
He's going to get the answer tattooed on his ass.
How was
That's
that?
what he's going to do. It was great.
I'm actually not going to ever provide an answer. I'm just going to keep tweeting graphs and let people make their own conclusions.
I'm going to give 3/4 of the answer and never actually
you guys,
give them
you guys figure out the rest.
answer.
You tell me what the answer is, and I'll just say, yep, you're right.
God, it seems like such a Taylor thing. He provokes so many, Michael. I swear to God, he provokes so many by asking open-ended questions nonstop while providing half the stats. It drives people insane. I've seen it happen.
I love it.
Last person he sent to a mental institution, like, just because.
That's
right. All right, what you got, Michael? What you got going on over there? Talk to us.
You could find me. I'm the host of the Dynasty Rewind. You could go ahead and find me on Twitter at RewindCEO. I don't tweet a whole lot, to be honest with you. I don't know. I'd rather just talk to you than tweet about it. That's just me. I vocalize better than I write. So, also, people are like, why don't you tweet more about fantasy football? Because I don't have all day to just be, dealing with people telling me how stupid I am. You know what I mean? So, but give me a follow the show at Dynasty Rewind. Yeah, we'd love to see you in our chat sometime on the show. Tuesday nights, 9:00. That's when we do the show. So, all Dynasty all the time. Come hang out.
Love, man. Absolutely love it. You want to give a little quick promo shout out for your underdog once again?
Yeah, sure. Underdog Fantasy, all best ball. It's freaking awesome. I love the app. It's sleek. It's fantastic. Promo code Rewind. You get $25. Can't beat it. I'll do a draft with you. Gladly. Love it.
You know what I miss? Like, is your Manscaped ad reads in the middle of the show? You'd be like, yeah, he couldn't catch the balls. Well, you know why he couldn't catch the balls? Is because he used Manscaped on his balls to make sure it was cleanly shaven and it slipped right out of their hands.
I said to the guy, I was like, I'm pretty sure you work with fantasy footballers. Man, like, if you're not going to make Andy Holloway read this, please don't make me do it. You know what I mean? Come on. I know I'm not up there yet, but I'm still there.
I thought that was completely on you, and now I'm really disappointed. I'm not going to lie.
No, they wrote that stuff, and I remember I would get these read-throughs, and I would just go, what?
But they were always so random. Like, you didn't read them at the beginning of the show. You read them at the perfect time, and I loved it.
Yes. Well, it's said that, and it's for all you hosts out there, don't put your read-throughs at the beginning of the show because people lose interest. So you have to hook them first, and then you do your read-throughs.
Oops.
That's just what I've always been told. That's why I stopped doing that on our show. And if you ever forget to do your read-throughs, I have mine pre-recorded, and I just put them on the end of the show.
Love it, man. Absolutely love it. Thank you for coming on. You guys can go check out our content, including Taylor's article and Tanner Brown over there at fantasyintervention.com. Once again, it's fantasyintervention.com. Don't forget to visit youtube.com/fantasyintervention. Make sure you guys hit subscribe and like this episode because these two men are absolutely amazing, along with Dynasty Society over there with Phil. I appreciate you guys for coming on. Thank you guys for listening, and thank you all for letting us intervene with your fantasy football